Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a whole bunch of new Battlefield 6 gameplay for you from the new map Empire State, which might as well be the Battlefield equivalent of Shipment 24/7. Battlefield wanted to be Call of Duty so bad that they decided to copy not just the gunplay style, but also the ultra-tiny maps that have ruined recent Call of Duty games. You can tell from my streams and my review video and some of the content that I've been putting out that I've been having a hard time enjoying myself in Battlefield 6, but I couldn't quite put my finger on why. The game looks good, the destruction's pretty good, the gunplay is quite nice, but something felt wrong or missing in Battlefield 6. There was something about it that didn't have that scale or epicness or level of fun that Battlefield 4 did. The game just felt kind of chaotic, clustery, and overall random, and I've been racking my brain trying to figure out why this feels different because I've played every Battlefield game since the original Battlefield 1942, and I've enjoyed every single one of them, but have struggled with Battlefield 6. And then I saw this map size comparison on the Battlefield subreddit. The source for this is Reddit, so you should probably take it with a mountain of salt in terms of accuracy, but even if it's inaccurate, it still perfectly sums up my feelings of frustration about what's wrong with Battlefield 6. As you can tell from this, all of the Battlefield 6 maps are smaller than those of Battlefield 5 and going to be significantly smaller than 4 or 2042 as well. And one very concerning thing about this map is that the majority of Battlefield 6 maps are similar in size to Modern Warfare 19's Ground War map, which I find ironic because that mode was designed to try to steal Battlefield fans away from the franchise and get them to play Call of Duty. I think about 90% of the problems that I have with Battlefield 6 are just that the maps are tiny and poorly designed. Siege of Cairo is just alley warfare. Iberian Offensive is also quite small as well. The Empire State map feels like I'm playing a slightly bigger version of Babylon from Black Ops 6, except I can blow holes in the floor. Liberation Peak is about a quarter of the size of what a big sniping map should be, and seems designed to guarantee that 40 snipers will be on the hill at any given time so that there are no other competing strategies on the map. Even some of the maps that haven't come out yet, like Manhattan Bridge, are likely going to be quite small. Where did all the big, epic-scale, vehicle-centered, and absolutely gorgeous Battlefield maps go? I don't know for sure, but I suspect that EA is trying very hard to steal Call of Duty players this year, and somebody somewhere decided that making maps smaller was going to appeal to the Call of Duty crowd. I mean, they probably feel big and epic for people that have only played COD, but if you've ever played Battlefield anytime in the last decade, these maps are going to feel like maps for ants. So today's video is mostly going to be criticisms about map design, but also a few other serious gripes about the beta. I am not going to mince words here today. Today's video is going to be quite ugly in terms of criticisms, so please buckle up. The intro to this video got a lot of the basics out of the way. If you're still watching, then you're probably already on board with the objective scientific fact that Battlefield 6 maps are smaller than they've ever been in the franchise, and I think that this is antithetical to the ethos of what Battlefield has been for over a decade, and I don't think that it bodes well for long-term player retention. I play Battlefield games because they're fun-focused and provide a sense of scale of combat that I can't get anywhere else. For example, I loved having a sword fight on the roof of the Zeppelin in Battlefield 1, or driving my ATV off of the giant skyscraper that collapses in Battlefield 4, or even doing sick wingsuit tricks between skyscrapers that are being hit by a sandstorm in Battlefield 2042. I'm not logging into Battlefield to scratch my itch for close quarters alleyway combat. If I wanted that, I could get much better close quarter combat gameplay in Call of Duty or just about any other modern FPS game. I think the provided scale of combat isn't just something that I'm not looking for, but it's something that actively makes the game worse. It squeezes the players into a literal meat grinder from which there is no escape. I totally get that people like meat grinders like Operation Locker and Shipment, and that Battlefield should have choke points. I'm down for that. But this game feels more like, whoops, all choke points, and all meaningful flank routes have been removed, or they're just pretty much not there. One of the joys of playing previous Battlefield games was to see that your team was stuck and they were pinned down, but you had the option to go the long way around the map, and if you're playing Recon, you can put a spawn beacon somewhere and get that big fat flank on the enemies and be able to deal enough damage to them and kill just enough of them from behind to attract their attention so that your team can push up through the front lines. Well, now it feels like that side flanks are barely there at all and so close to the objectives that it's impossible to flank around without being seen. In the past, an enemy player or squad would have to be smart and check their flanks to make sure that nobody was looping around, but now we're just squeezed into this little objective funnel so tightly that as long as you're looking at the objective, it's very unlikely that anybody can sneak past you. So that means if your team is losing, congratulations, you're going to keep on losing. If you're pinned down by snipers, the only strategic opportunity you have is to pull out a sniper and counter snipe as hard as humanly possible. It's the death of strategy, which is one of the reasons that I haven't been playing very much Black Ops 6 or Call of Duty these games. All of the COD maps are tiny little meat grinders devoid of strategy or thought or anything fun, and I don't want to see that philosophy coming over to Battlefield because it's already boring to me. Some people might love it, and apparently all of the accountants at EA have decided that enough people will, but I don't. Moving along from the map size in Battlefield, I would also like to point out that the Battlefield maps are not very well designed for Battlefield gameplay. There is an issue of funneling everybody into choke points, as mentioned before, but this is greatly exacerbated on any urban map because it rapidly devolves into back alley warfare. Like, the alleys just serve as literal funnels, as meat tubes to squeeze you down like your human sausage to go die. And I think that the defense and attack respawns are really close to each other, so that if you die and respawn, you can be back in combat in like 5 seconds or less. Objectives are more often than not just sitting out in open streets with or without cover that is very easily destroyable. And if you fight over the objective for more than 2 minutes, it's just going to end up being mostly flat with nothing to hide behind, which makes it even harder to capture or recapture an objective and just kind of stalls everyone out in one particular meat grinder. And then there's Iberian Offensive. Oh my god, this map. I promised myself I wouldn't use any swear words that would get me demonetized here, but Iberian Offensive has about 1.5 strategies that you can employ on the map. Your team can either be the best snipers in the world and lock everybody else in the spawn, or maybe you can take your tank up the hill and suppress the snipers for a little while until it's inevitably destroyed, and in that ensuing chaos, maybe you can capture an objective. If you're lucky, somebody with an above room temperature IQ will spawn into the tank, and they might consider taking it up the hill and doing something helpful for you, but 90% of the time the tank is just going to get destroyed, and if you're on the attacking side, your team is just fully on lockdown forever with no alternative strategies other than to break out your own sniper rifle and pray that you're like 5 times better than the enemy. There's no meaningful strategy or fun to this for me. I just found it profoundly annoying. The buildings and cover all over the objectives don't last very long either. A few minutes of combat, rockets, grenades, maybe a tank or whatever will render them all flat and pretty much useless, so when you're trying to capture the objectives, it's just fish in a barrel, which brings me to the next point of this video, which is going to sound like the most offensive thing to all of the Battlefielders watching. The destruction in Battlefield 6 is overhyped. It may be objectively good compared to the rest of the industry, which abandoned destructible environments decades ago, but it still underperforms compared to the destruction available in Battlefield 4, and more recently in the Finals, which was developed by the same team that made Battlefield 1, which also had fantastic destruction. The destructible environments in Battlefield 6 are largely static in that they destroy the same way or about the same way every single time. If you shoot a wall to blow a hole in it, it'll blow that same hole in the wall every time, just so long as you're above the damage threshold. You just shoot it enough and it'll crumble and drop bricks on infantry to crush them the exact same way either time. And it's a preset destruction, guys. It's not dynamic. It's not really clever. There's not a lot going on with it. People don't see it all at the same time, even like the Finals does. And the pieces don't actually interact with you or do anything. The damage you take is from preset invisible kill boxes, and the destructed environments will slowly dissolve and disappear over the time like it's a game from the early 2000s. It's not particularly dynamic, it's just omnipresent on the maps. Almost everything on the maps can be destroyed and broken in the same kind of way that you can break down almost any of the walls in Fortnite. That doesn't mean that Fortnite has the best destruction mechanics, it just means that it has a lot of one type of destruction mechanics spread across the entire map. Everything in the maps can be destroyed and broken in the same kind of way that you can break down the walls in Fortnite. And that doesn't make it actually dynamic like in the finals. The type of destruction available on a technical level in Battlefield 6 is actually very similar to what we had in Call of Duty Vanguard. It's just been scaled up yet. And on a technical level, I think it's really far behind anything that we had in Battlefield 4. Do you remember breaking the structural supports of that hotel in Hanoi in Battlefield 4 so that you could collapse the front half of it but not the back? Or do you remember flooding the entire map? Or that absolutely epic Battlefield 4 skyscraper collapse that we had earlier? Or destroying any of the juggernauts in Battlefield 1? Does Battlefield 6 offer anything that matches up to that degree of scale, match impact, and overall visual beauty? Absolutely not. Anytime you destroy something, all you're going to get is dust everywhere and cosmetic bricks that will disappear in a few seconds. And this brings up another good point. I'm also kind of annoyed that the destruction kicks up dust and sort of obfuscation all over the place. So in the opening engagements, when you push into a new area, the new areas are just automatically filled with dust and debris and smoke because people are throwing grenades and destructing the environment. And by the time it settles to where you can actually see people, pretty much everything is flat and there's very limited cover. I believe that's why the medic has a barricade, because there's no cover anywhere in the game because it all just goes bye-bye so fast. This is especially noticeable on any of the urban maps because everything is exploding and dust is kicking up all the time. Battlefield 6 already has significant player visibility issues, and I don't know why shooting a chair should cause it to explode into what's essentially a small-scale smoke grenade. I'm telling you guys right now, this type of destruction just doesn't do it for me. And all of this brings me to my final point about the maps. They're just cluttered with junk everywhere. I get that New York is a dense urban environment, but I feel like I'm walking around TLC hoarders, tripping over myself, climbing things and obstructions, chairs and bottles and crap just breaking all over the place. But half of the buildings just have doors that lead to nowhere. There are so many rooms and stalls and little nooks and crannies and bathrooms that you can go into that are just filled with junk waiting to explode when shot because it's so dynamic and so cool. And there's so many alleys whose awnings you can shoot down. And there's so much stuff to climb and mantle and trip over and pray that you don't get stuck as you try to navigate the map. I can't even climb into many of the buildings past the second or third story. We had like 8-story buildings back in Battlefield Bad Company. In Battlefield 6, all of the buildings, especially in the more urban maps, are capped at a certain elevation so you can't actually go up in them as if they were real, and I didn't find that to be very impressive. Another thing that I didn't find to be very impressive is the color palette. I have played on 50 Shades of Brown for a very long time. I don't know why the color palette is identical to the 2008 Modern Warfare 2. I played that game for decades. I love it. It's great, but it's overplayed. I would love to have some color. One of the things I loved about swapping off of Call of Duty to, I believe it was Battlefield 3 at the time, is that the maps weren't just brown. There were greens and reds and these beautiful buildings and structures and things. And well, Battlefield 6 mostly just has a lot of shades of brown and gray. Moving near the end of this video, I wanted to bring up a couple of other gripes that I've run into on my playtest. The first one is that the custom search is not a true server browser, and the logic on it to prioritize the things you want instead of actually selecting them gave me psychic damage. If I select that I only want to play a specific map, and I select that map, it should give me only that map. Not, we're going to try to prioritize the map that you want, but we'll give you other maps and other stuff in the meantime. I think that's absolutely wild logic there that I found very, very frustrating. The game has some impressive amounts of rubber banding and connection issues as well that leads to big disconnects between time to kill and time to die. I do very frequently feel that I get blown up faster than in Call of Duty and have no time to react. I suspect, I don't know because I'm not battle nonsense doing my testing, but I suspect that it's rubber banding and we're getting super bullets just like we got back in Battlefield 4, where 5 or 6 bullets load in as one and you just kind of get dropped. That happened to me a lot when I was playing Empire State, and I found it very frustrating. It also blows my mind that there are different keybinds for crouch and slide on PC, because in every FPS game that I've played over the last 20 years, if you're sprinting and you hit crouch, you'll slide. No, this one, if you're sprinting and you hit crouch, you just crouch. You have to bind a custom key to slide, which makes it harder for me because my hands are all screwed up and I can only hit so many keys. So I must have played like 6 games before even realizing that was a problem. I was just like, why is my guy so slow? Why can I not time my slides right? The Call of Duty style movement system also seems slightly incongruent with the movement penalties in Bloom available in Battlefield. In a good way, Battlefield punishes you for like trying to strafe and shoot, or sprint and shoot, or knee slide, or fall and shoot as much you would in real life. As an avid real life firearms enthusiast and pro Second Amendment kind of guy, I've fired a lot of guns, and I can tell you it is really hard to be moving and shooting accurately at the same time. It is a literal skill that you have to practice years to develop, so Battlefield penalizing that makes sense. But then when you add in this increased movement speed and mantle and sort of sliding, and we're getting closer and closer to that Call of Duty style movement, it seems incongruent because I can do all this really sick stuff, but it makes my guns kind of inaccurate. I would rather also have this game prone locked so that I can identify if somebody is alive in a pile of bodies. The new Omni movement style roll that they have, which a lot of games are doing these days, that allows you to like see your legs and shoot between your legs and roll from your back to your belly and that kind of stuff. It frequently caused problems for me because I was confusing dead bodies for people that are prone, and there were people that were just proned out in piles of dead bodies waiting for medics to come to revive them before striking with paddles or shotguns or something. I kind of don't like the prone system that they have, and believe me, since this is a meat grinder game, there's going to be lots of piles of bodies for you guys to deal with. So yeah, all of this video was very negative, but it was true. I mean this genuinely, and I also say this not because I hate Battlefield or I want to be a rage YouTuber or shut all this down. I really hope that this message of this video gets out and some changes are made, because well, geez, I don't know how to say it. Like, I'm so frustrated by this, I'm actually downgrading my expectations for the longevity of Battlefield 6. I do think this game has a tremendous amount of potential, and even despite all this whinging, I'm still excited to see where it goes and what it can do, especially with future updates and Battle Royale and community changes and things like that. But what it seems to want to do is just be Modern Warfare 2 with maps about 3 times as big, and you can shoot holes in the walls with Bad Company level destruction tech. That's not a game I want to play. It seriously makes me worry that people are going to get sick of playing Battlefield 6 really early, and that once again, Battlefield is going to die and have to play second fiddle to Call of Duty instead of being a great, long-lasting game like it should be. I really hope that the people at EA and DICE listen to this video, and instead of just being profoundly offended and mad at me, take the earnest and hopefully constructive criticism to heart. It's coming out in months. What am I talking about? We can't change anything. These maps need significant redesigns. They need their objectives moved. The destruction needs to be retooled. You can't move whole alleyways in some of these maps. I really hope that we get changes, but I realize that at this point it might be too late, and I'm kind of scared for that, because I really want to see Battlefield slap again. Dude, it's always so fun to take a nice long break from my main game and just play Battlefield. It's so good. And I'd like to be able to do that again, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that with Battlefield 6. Guys, that is all for this video. I'm literally just rambling now. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.